Okay, hi guys. I am back with another video, and as promised, this time it is from the cytopathology series. And before I start this video, I would like to thank each and every one of you who has subscribed to me, who has viewed the video, who has liked or even disliked my videos, because all your comments and all your inputs are most welcome. They help me improvise on what I'm doing and make me understand better what you need from me. I think we are about I think we've crossed, in fact, 450 subscribers. And a big shout out to all of you, because this really motivates me a lot to keep making these short tutorial videos and to keep giving my best. Without taking too much time, let me introduce you to the topic today. Since I had previously made a tutorial on hematpath topic, that was dimorphic anemias and pernicious anemia. All of you who have not seen that video, it is there on my channel. It was loaded a week back, and as you all know, I keep a target of uploading one video per week, because some of you had requested me to increase the frequency to more than one, but unfortunately I'm really sorry, I'm not able to do that because of work commitments. However, keeping in trend with the fact that I alternate hematopathology videos with cytopathology videos, today we are going to be dealing with cytopathology, and the last two cytopathology videos were on lymph node lesions, benign and malignant. So moving on, I'm going to be dealing with salivary gland lesions, and you will find a part of head and neck also covered in the videos. Today it is a super short video. Why super short? Because I'm only going to be taking benign lesions today. Alright, and not only salivary gland, few head and neck lesions, but only benign. uh, I have already dealt with how you do an FNAC, so I am not dealing with that part. I might, put in a few words about a particular lesion if I have to, and then maybe we'll move on from there. So, without wasting much time, let me begin with this part of the tutorial. Again, as I always say, these are just pitfall and troubleshoots. I'm not taking up the entire topic. I'm just sharing my experience with you. The problems that I faced when I was seeing those lesions, I try and give you the solutions to those. Maybe some of you are facing the same problem that I am. Of course, this is not a lecture. There are much better books by both Indian and foreign authors available, which you have to read before you try and understand what I'm trying to tell you. Because if you're just a first year who's just entered, you might not get what I'm saying. So if you go and read Gray's or go and read Orwell's or any other book by an Indian author, and then you come and listen to me, you will be able to understand me better. So, and of course, I have no financial gains from this video, so that was my disclaimer. And so let us begin with this tutorial. Okay. This index is actually for me to work on what I'm going to be taking in both the parts of the salivary gland video that I'm going to be making, both benign and malignant. Later on, I'll also cover these things like metastasis to salivary gland, kaisa dikhta hai, that I'll be covering in the malignant. Metastasis to lymph node of a salivary gland, I'll be taking that part in the malignant only. Ectopic salivary gland, I'll show you a normal salivary gland, and if you do an FNAC of an area where you do not expect a salivary gland to be there, for example, your lymph node is over here in the maybe the posterior triangle, lower down, lower one third, or the anterior triangle, and you should have an idea of what the posterior and the anterior triangle is for lymph nodes in the head and neck region especially. And you get to see some cells which mimic a salivary gland benign lesion cell, so that will make you think that could this be presence of an ectopic tissue mimicking a salivary gland in the nodes maybe. uh, uh, I should not be dealing with this topic here exactly, but ectopic salivary gland tissue is found more commonly in the GI system. I mean, cytopathology has got nothing to do with that in routine investigation. I've still kept it here because you, like you say, na, we get ectopic thyroid gland. So you might chance upon something, but more commonly you get ectopic salivary glands, ectopic pancreatic tissue in the GI system. And when I was doing my MD, I was fortunate enough to come across both the lesions, and we published case reports on that also when I was doing my MD. We were fortunate enough to come across an ectopic salivary gland in the GI tract and an ectopic pancreatic tissue in the gallbladder wall. So that is not for today, that is more of histopathology, but I still mentioned it here. Of course, how do you differentiate salivary gland tumor from lymph node lesions? Today also I'm going to be telling you a bit of it, but since it is more of a benign lecture, so I'll not be going into the details. Mimickers are more common in malignant lesions. There are certain diagnoses in benign lesions which are overlaps, and they might confuse you and you might call them mimickers. However, that is not very common in benign, because the best part about a benign lesion is its clinical presentation. A benign lesion will have certain features which will help you in differentiating कि नहीं ये साइटोपैथ में वही चीज होगी. Having said that, a clinician, a ENT surgeon will not be expecting you to give them the exact diagnosis on just cytopathology. Make that very clear. Clinician also resides a lot on the radiology, his clinical acumen, and of course the presence of other lymph nodes, etc. And he just wants from you whether the lesion is benign or malignant. At max, if you can give them the grade if it's a malignant lesion, and whether it is adenoid cystic or non-adenoid cystic. Even if you cannot tell them whether it is adenoid cystic or non-adenoid cystic, at least the grade, if possible, in a malignant lesion, and whether it is benign or malignant. Because the kind of surgery that a ENT surgeon performs is not in the current scenario, because you all must have read like that benign lesions like pleomorphic adenoma, they have fungating finger-like projections, where not exactly finger-like projection, but they have projections which go deep into the surrounding tissue, and when you are removing them, if those projections are still left in wherever you are removing them from in this area, then they recur. Okay, so now today the kind of surgeries have improved. There are certain extracapsular removal of a pleomorphic adenoma. There are proper, maybe they remove the entire part of the gland. All that depends. What they want to know from you is that whether it is benign or malignant, and if adenoid cystic or not. Because most of these diagnoses, they sometimes can make on radiology also. So by combining clinical and radiology, they already have an idea of what the lesion will be. So these are the things that a clinician is expecting from you when he is reading your cytopath report. And of course, after that, histopath is there for confirmation. That is a gold standard for everything. And then comes the IHC on histopath. I'm mentioning it here only, although it is not a part of the chapter. Salivary gland lesions में IHC का बहुत बड़ा role नहीं. It's still a morphological diagnosis, except when you have to recognize myoepithelial cells or myoepithelial and invasion of the basement membrane or something like that. Okay, P63 plays a very important role there. So myoepithelial markers are important. You have to know the IHC of a salivary gland lesion from the exam point of view. The molecular, Robbins has also given it, all the latest textbooks have it. You should know that. But broadly, still today, salivary gland lesions, tumors, specifically benign or malignant both, are morphological diagnoses. You will realize once you come across them that you don't need IHC to diagnose them until and unless there's some sort of a big confusion. There are certain tumors, I'll take it in the next tutorial. So moving on. Okay, these two diagrams I've put over here because you have to know them. To study head and neck, you have to know this part of the spectrum, that what are the lymph node levels and where are they present. Even if you're not an ENT surgeon, you have to know what level of head and neck lymph nodes are involved, and then you can, if it is say a level C. See, I told you about anterior triangle and posterior triangle. So margin of sternocleidomastoid going like this, divides the neck into a posterior triangle and an anterior triangle. Okay, and then this is the floor of the mouth. And then further these regions are subdivided into 6, and each has a particular lymph node present, and by the level of involvement you stage the head and neck tumor. That is for further when I take histopath, like if you have laryngeal carcinomas, etc. And then if you have a metastasis in that, then by the level of lymph node involvement also you stage these tumors. So it's important. Excuse me. Excuse me. Okay. Okay, this part, okay, where has my marker gone? This part, this is the WHO classification, the recent one for salivary gland tumors, both benign and malignant. Alright, I am reading out the benign ones like basal cell adenoma, Warthin's, oncocytoma, lymphadenoma, cystadenomas, then Schiall adenoma, papilliferum, ductal papilloma, sebaceous adenomas. What are the other epithelial lesions that WHO has now included? There's adenosis, oncocytic hyperplasias, lymphoepithelial lesions, and duct hyperplasias. You can have soft tissue tumors and hematolymphoid tumors. I will be dealing with some of them which are very commonly seen when you do an FNAC. Okay, non-neoplastic lesions of head and neck, I'll first enumerate them, then I'll show you the images. So if I start with the head and neck area, you see the topic is salivary gland, but it's too short, the benign part. So I'm also including the head and neck. Branchial cyst is one of the most common findings that you get in children, and it will be a cyst-like lesion present laterally and most commonly in the midline. I have very rarely seen it laterally. And what it will have are, it is a cystic lesion, and when you put your needle, you will get material, serous material, or sometimes blood filled or infective if it is pus like material. And when you spread the smear, you might just get nothing, only inflammatory background, or you might get some epithelial cells mixed with inflammatory background. Now the kind of epithelial cells you get are squamoid in nature, and that will lead you to confuse it with a cystic SCC metastasis of a lymph node in that region. So I am going to later on show you how to differentiate between the two. Then of course there's thyroglossal cyst, you know, fine, it is in the midline. These are midline cysts. Mucocele occurring on the lip, it is retention or extravasation type. Schiall adenosis is benign proliferation of the salivary glands, acini, which are present in the salivary gland. I have not taken the basic anatomy of salivary gland. I presume all of you know it, so I'm not taking it. Please read it. It has serous, mucinous and seromucinous glands present, and ducts which are lined by locolumnar to cuboidal to locolumnar epithelium ciliated. So you have to read that. I'm not taking. Peters is a very good book for histopathology, where basic histopathology is given. If you want, if still you want, I'll take that when I take malignancies, what a basic salivary gland looks like, although that is a part of histopathology, not cyto. Alright, then Schiallithiasis is stone present in the salivary duct, and sometimes there are crystals present in the salivary duct fluid, tyrosine crystals, etc. Lymphoepithelial cyst, where you get lymphoid population with epithelial cells. You might think it's a lymph node, but it's not. Retention cyst, again a mucocele. And then chronic hyalinidis, also known as Kuttner's tumor, where the chronic inflammation of the salivary gland makes it so fibrosed, so hard that you feel that it is a malignancy, but it is actually not. Okay. So moving. Yeah. So now I'll just show you the images. As I said, this will be a super short video. This thing that you see over here is badly necrotic background. All this is necrosis. There's some sort of a remnants of some cell. This could be a squam or inflammatory or macrophage. Basically what you see is a lot of inflammation on a dirty background. Now this kind of lot of information on a dirty background kind of a picture is also seen in SCC, in the head and neck region. Another picture in a different stain showing you the same thing, lot of inflammation. This is PAP and a dirty background. However, now when you might feel that if I show you this field over here and maybe say this field over here, you might think कि both same है, but nahi. This is also a dirty background with lot of inflammation. This is also dirty background with lot of inflammation. However, and I'm going to broaden my marker and change the pen. Look at this cell. Alright, now this is the clinching thing that you have to look for. This looks like a dyskeratotic squamous cell. This thing occurs in an SCC, not in a branchial cleft cyst. Okay. So when you see inflammation with dirty background in head and neck region, you have to look for these kind of cells to think कि कहीं ये SCC तो नहीं. Okay, having said that, all this is very common in SCC. You might get this in maybe a very badly, in fact, because there are squamous cells or squam present in a branchial cleft cyst also. Hence is the importance of clinics and radiology. You don't expect a squamous cell carcinoma in a 2-year, 3-year, 4-year, 5-year-old child. You expect that in a 60-year-old male. So a 60-year-old male with this kind of picture, you have to think of SCC. A 2-year-old child, first think of cyst, because SCC is not that common. It will not happen, in fact, in a 2-year-old child unless he has some sort of syndrome which I don't know of. Okay, so this is the importance over here. This is again the same thing. This is a PAP which is showing you some benign squamous cells with inflammation as seen in branchial cleft cells. This is FNAC, I think, yeah, cell block, in fact, where you see lymphoid cells and oncocytic cells. This is a Wadden's tumor, but I'll take that later on. Okay. Mucocele. Extravasation and retention are words used for the gross appearance of the cyst. The microscopic appearance is the same. You'll see muciphages, you will see inflammation, you will see this kind of a serous background. Okay. Sometimes you get what is known as these kind of amyloid amorphous material with some cells and some RBCs in between, and this is very commonly seen if there is amyloidosis of the salivary gland. Okay, then as I said, benign, these are benign looking salivary gland cells. This is a cluster of benign looking salivary gland cells which are nothing but they are round and very monomorphic, and if they are scattered single you will think that they are lymphoid cells, or but they are never scattered and single. अगर इसको मैं अलग अलग करूँ तो lymphoid cell की तरह लगेंगे जो थोड़े बड़े हों size में, but that never happens. They occur in clusters and they appear like cuboidal or round cells which are very benign looking. This is adenosis. This is shear adenosis, and this thing these are crystals. These crystals can be a part of the stone that is present there, or some other crystals due to some sort of a tumor, like pleomorphic adenoma has a lot of crystals in salivary gland secretions when you do an FNAC. So part of a pathology or part because there's stone present or something, so you might get crystals when you do FNAC of a salivary gland. Background may you see some inflammation, and then you see these orange crystals which are present in the FNAC. So this is varied morphology of a benign salivary gland or head and neck lesion that you can see. The mimickers that you will get confused with, I'll give you that also, are you might confuse a rapid florid shear adenosis with a tumor. So now you ask me, how should I differentiate that? Each tumor has a specific feature which I'll take when I'm taking tumors, which you will not see in shear adenosis. Shear adenosis may you're just going to see clusters of benign looking salivary gland cells. Also, clinico-radiological correlation is always important here. I'll give you a small example. Supposing there is a basal cell adenoma, you will see that the cells are balling around some sort of a secretion, or they are in a line, basaloid looking cells. Same for canalicular adenoma. Some people use it as slash basal cell adenoma. Acinic cell, you might get some secretions and cells surrounding that. Pleomorphic adenoma, you'll get myxoid background, plasmacytoid cells, or even if it is a cellular pleomorphic adenoma, you'll get a lot of plasmacytoid cells and very, very cellular slide. So if I show you that, then you'll be able to understand why this cannot be a pleomorphic adenoma. This is a cohesive cell cluster because of benign proliferation of the glands, Chiari adenosis. Okay. I have put this chart taken from the net just to show you that the kind of reactive lymphoid head and neck lesions that we have to look for, lymphoid hyperplasias, which can be of any type. I've taken how a reactive lymph node looks, and angiolymphoid hyperplasia. Alright, developmental lesion, I've told you lymphoepithelial, they'll have both lymphocytes as well as epithelial cells. So you have to look for the clinics, you have to look for the radiology, and then correlate and see it's not a lymph node metastasis but actually a lymphoepithelial cyst. Okay, and metastasis has hard clumped lymph nodes. Cyst-like lesion will always be cystic until and unless it's a cystic metastasis. And of course, then there are lymphomas. Okay, benign lesions, I've told you pleomorphic adenoma, basal cell and canalicular adenoma, Wadden's and onco. Basically, what Wadden's, as I showed you, will have is a lot of lymphoid cells, alright, with oncocytic cells. Oncocytic cells are cells having small nucleus, blue, and a lot of pink bubbly cytoplasm. Not bubbly exactly, but intensely eosinophilic pink cytoplasm. That is oncocyte. Alright, I'll show you the image right now. And so that is what a Wadden's tumor will have. Both the populations, lymphoid and this. Oncocytomas will just have these clusters of these oncocytic cells. Basal cell or canalicular adenoma might have basaloid looking cells in follicle form, in clusters, but they will only basaloid and not looking like what an acinic, a salivary gland adenosis was. Pleomorphic adenoma has chondroid looking bluish myxoid material in the background with plasmacytoid cells as well as cuboid looking cells. Okay. See, this is a pleomorphic adenoma. This is the purplish chondromyxoid material I'm telling you about. And look at these cells. They are, I don't know, some call it ovoid, some call it plasty. This is a plasmacytoid cell, ovoid cell. And these clusters are not like what you saw there, the adenosis cluster. Now you might, you see this? You think this is adenosis because the background is clear. Now look at this. There's some chondromyxoid material over here. So this is not adenosis. Adenosis was what I showed you. This is a pleomorphic adenoma. Again, see this material and this bluish cytoplasm. So this is a pleomorphic adenoma. And this is a cluster of Hürthle cells. Okay. So as I said, this is a super short tutorial. This is a very good paper. Written by Amy et al. I read this paper so that I could discuss a few benign points with you. You should go and read this, and like branchial clefts, etc., in very common in pediatric population. So you can go and read this, and these are really good images. So this will help you a lot in your FNAs for benign lesions. So thank you so much. This is a really short tutorial, and I hope I have discussed a few points. There's not much in benign lesions of salivary gland cytopathology, to be very frank. There is more in the malignant lesions. So I have not been able to discuss too much because the clinical presentation is nothing. There will be a midline or a lateral lesion. You have to leave it more to the clinician. You can't do much. You can just tell them it is cystic, solid, infected, non-infected, a lymph node or a salivary gland. That is all you can do. Of course, if it's a lymph node, then you will have a TB, a Castleman, etc. I have already taken all that. So I'm not dealing with lymph node lesions this time. I've just dealt with salivary gland lesions and what other lesions you can get. People miss out crystals. They don't expect that salivary gland lesions have crystals, but they have crystals. So you should know about that. And the most common tumors that you come across are pleomorphic adenomas and Warden's tumor, basal adenocell adenoma, or these cystic infective lesions. Yeah, pleomorphic adenoma can become something known as X carcinoma. Then you'll get malignant etiology, maybe with some benign areas. So that again becomes a part of the malignant lesion. So I've not discussed it here. So I hope this short briefing, brushing up, I should say, of only benign lesions of head and neck is of some use to you. And your comments are most welcome. I'm sorry I couldn't add much to this because there's not much to benign lesions according to me. Anyone who has more to add is most welcome. And thank you so much for your patient hearing, and I hope you like it.